Welcome to the Hemlock State Explorer. We are at Cook Forest State Park Ridge Campground, and we're going to do a walking tour for you to help you pick out the perfect spot for your trip. Cook Forest State Park Campground is arranged as a main road with multiple loops off on either side. Right at the beginning there's a large ball field and a playground beyond that. We'll take this first spur off of the main road. That's site 6 to our right. Site 1. Two, both seem sloped significantly. Would not be a good option for a tent. What we're on right now isn't in fact a loop, but it's just a spur back into the woods with a few campsites. It's secluded. What's this one? This one is 3. That one looks decent, except for all the roots and the stumps. Might be hard to find a flat spot. This one is site number 4. That one also is pretty significantly sloped. The camp trail begins up that way. Then there's one more campsite to the left. This is site number 5. It's secluded. It looks like you could go back under that hemlock stand, but it's also pretty significantly sloped. So what you're looking at up there is sites 1 through 5. I would not recommend any of them, although they're secluded and on their own spur. They're sloped. I wouldn't recommend them for tents at any rate. For a camper or a pop-up or van, they would be okay. Now we're going to do sites 6 through 15. And those are all to our left. Looks like they are a narrow strip against the woods and mostly in the open. Site number 8 is a pull-in site right in front of you that has some shade from the oaks and maples above, but these sites further down here look to be pretty open. Wouldn't be my first choice, and you look like you're on the main strip, the only way in and out, so it would be a high traffic area. There's the ball field down there and the amphitheater and a large field to our right. Yeah, sites 9 through 15 wouldn't be my first choice, but those folks look perfectly content. We just passed the guard shack. On the other side of the guard shack is the amphitheater and large ball field. There's the playground, volleyball net. There's some sites on the other side, but we're going to head up here. That's site number 113. We'll do a loop for site 113 and then head around to site 115. Here's site 112. So when you look at these posts, you can note which sites are electric. The electric will have an E, whereas the non-electric will not have an E. Up here is site 111. We really like that. That's one of our recommended sites. Although you're right next to the extra car parking, it is back in the woods there. Offers some seclusion, and it looks like you have a bit of space to work with. This is the dump station here, so we won't bother going up on that loop. Here's the bathhouse. That bathhouse actually has laundry in it. Not all the bathhouses do, but that one does. And each section has a bathhouse, which makes it really convenient. Here's site 119. 117 through 115, you can see down below, they all look very similar. There's the bathhouse with the laundry. is site 118, site 120. Sites 118 and 120, I'll pan over to give you a view. There you are. They would probably be some of our last choices on account of the openness. There are no trees above, so it looks like you're in full sun for most of the day, except right now because it's morning and we have shade from these trees. But they're close to the bathhouse. They're open, a little bit of a swampy section. So 118 and 120 would not be our first choices. Well, to be honest, they would probably be our last choices. I'm gonna walk up this loop. Sites 108, we'll work backwards to site 86. Back a gravel lane, site 107. Looks okay, but you have a bunch of trees, small trees in the middle. 108 is an excellent site. Back in the woods, have some privacy back there. Let's go up here, 106. Wow, 106 is also one of our favorite sites. It is slightly sloped in this middle section at the beginning, and then at the very top it's flat. So if you have a tent set up there, but wow, you have like no neighbors here. This is great. It looks like even a few paths off into the woods. So that was site 111. That would be our one of our top choices. I'm sorry, it was not site 111, it was 106. Corduroy Trail. Site 105. 104. I would say any of the sites on this loop would be a good site. One of the things we've noticed about Cook Forest State Park is that the sites are huge. They're larger than any of the sites by far that we've seen at any other state parks. 103, that right there next to the white van. 102, against the forest. 101. That van is on site 100. 99 to our left. 98. Just look how big those sites are. So my favorites would be all these sites on the left side of the loop. 96. 97. So from about site 96 to 108 are highly recommended. They're on the left side of this loop the way we're going. Sites on the right side are pretty good too, but you have the rest of the campground behind you. And then on the left you have the woods behind you. Huge sites. So the ones on this side right here are fairly sloped. We would not recommend them. Those are, let's see, sites 93, 91, 88, and 87 we do not recommend. So there's 95 to the left, 94, 93. Yeah, 93, and then beyond that 91 and 98, all to our right, are not recommended. You can see the slope in the video. 92 is pretty good. We'll pan over to 91. See, 91 is just It's nice because you have the Hemlock stand. It's fairly secluded. It's a huge site like most sites here, Site 91, but you can just clearly see you're going to have trouble finding a flat spot unless you set up a tent right next to the road. '89. And 88 looks like it's like a two-tiered site. Parking is up here and then slightly sloped down at the bottom. I would not recommend this site, 87, because of the slope. And then what do we have here? We have 86, which you park your car at the top and it looks like you can set up a tent in the trees below. This is the way we just came, sites 86 to 108, and almost all the sites on the right side would be highly recommended, except there's a slight slope to site 95 on the right. The sites are huge. They're all non-electric, non-pet sites. We walked back to the guard shack, which you see right there, to give you a good point of reference, and there's the park. So we're turning, and there's wood for sale, $20 for one of those bins. So we are heading back into the park now, and we're going to take the first loop to our right. Here's site 41. Nice shady spot, but it is next to the firewood bin. Site 42. Site 43. Back there. So we're, as that sign just indicated, we're in the pet area. Site 44, campground host. Alright, we're going to head back into this loop here. As you can see, we're coming out of the wooded area, and this is mostly open. Sites 45 to 81. So here we go, 46, all open to our left. 48 also open. 47, 48, 49, all fairly open. A little bit of cover next to the bathhouse. 50, it's right here. 51. Yeah, there would be something, another campground host. Something to be said for not being next to the dumpster and the bathhouse. There's another site that is 53. Here's another bathhouse. Does not have laundry, but each bathhouse has a dishwashing station in the middle of it. Now we're going back into a Hemlock stand. Feels good to get into the shade. This is a really neat section. Although, as I'm seeing, the sites on either side of this section are a bit sloped. Here's 56. 55. It's right here. 55 seems to be a bit tight. And we're looking at site 58 here. Again, a bit tight. 57 is nice, but that is a huge slope. I would not pick 57. 59 isn't bad, but you don't have much usable space on account of that drainage ditch. Let's follow this loop up here. And then after following the loop to our left, we'll go to our right, and whoa, that's very sloped. I mean, it looks cool because of the Hemlock stand, but it's very sloped. Here's site 60, sloped, would not recommend. To our left is a camper on the corner. It's a large site but small on account of all those trees. That's site 63. Right there, site 63. Site 62, very sloped, would not recommend. Wow, that's a huge site. It goes pretty far back, but it's also sloped. 65. 64. 66 is a large site as well. It goes pretty far back. Looks like not quite as sloped. 68 is a full hookup site. So the sites now to our right are going to be full hookup sites. And those are sites 68 through 82. So we're in the full hookup section, sites 68 to 82 on both sides of the street. 68's a pretty large one that goes back to the woods. I like that. Right now we're looking at site 67, 69 across the road. '71. That's site number 70. Site 72. Site 73. So in the sites we just walked through, you have a bit of shade, but what we're about to go into now is mostly open except for some taller white oaks. So these are sites 69 through 83, and they're all full hookup, but as you can see, they're all open. The sites to the right, there's site 75. The sites to the right, actually 75 isn't bad because you have the wooded area behind you. 75 is a pretty good one for a full hookup. But all these here to the left, 74, 78, these are all open. So if that doesn't bother you, and these are good sites for full hookup, but I personally would not select them just because I like to be in the shade. Site 70, 79, turn back around, 77, 81, 80. So at least the nice thing is, if you get rain, things would dry out pretty quickly. Looks like that gentleman has a tarp hanging up. And there's sites 83 and 82. Let's head up past this extra car parking lot and check out some more electric sites. We are past the extra car parking lot, heading to sites 121 to 151. Sites 122 through 127 are full hookup. Just want to show you right here. Here's 122. That's a pull-through site. Then 124 next to it is also a pull-up site or pull-through site, but you're right next to the bathhouse, and the dumpster would not be my first choice. But while we're here, I just want to show you site 226, a non-electric. That site right next to the extra car parking. followed by 223 and 222. Next, so here's 223, 222. I really do not favor these sites on account of being right next to the bathhouse and the dumpster, and they're getting some morning shade, but other than that they're pretty open. These are non-electric tent sites, and there are far better non-electric tent sites than these. While we're walking up to the electric sites, 122 through 151, just want to take a moment and ask you to please like, subscribe, and share. And this is just the highlights walking tour to give you an idea of the layout of the campground and what some of the campsites look like. But if you want to see the full review, please check out hemlockstateexplorer.com. Alright, here are sites 121 to 151. Like I said before, sites 122 through 127 are full hookup. So these are the pull-through sites we just saw from the other side. There's site 123 with a big camper. It's the back end of the bathhouse. It's 126, 127 with that camper. Site 125. 127, 126. All right, we are passing the full hookup sites and entering into just the electric sites, 128 and 130 beyond. Oh, 129. I like that one. That might be a top pick for electric sites. Yeah, 130 we just saw. And then next to 129 is 131. Next to 131 is 133. 134 with a gentleman reading. We have a camper on the inside of the loop. 130. Yeah, so here's what the sites look like. 131, 133, 134, 135 around this curve. Right after turning the curve, here's 138. To our right is, see the post, 139, right on the end there. Here's a very sloped site. 141 is what we're looking at. To our right is 143. $144 right here. So I'm going to give you a good picture of this. The sites all to our left then are in a lodge pole pine stand. It's a really cool feel being in there. It provides a lot of shade, and it's just a nice woodsy feel. But we'll check out those sites then. Here's 146 we're just looking at. 145, 143 right there. Here's 148, kind of narrow. 149, the picnic table we're looking at. See what this one is with the white Winnebago. 150, 151. And now we're back at the Bathhouse. We just completed a loop. That's the Bathhouse where we started. And then right now you're looking at sites 222, 223, and 226, which I didn't really recommend. So now we're going to turn to our left and enter this lodgepole and red pine stand. I really like it back here. It has a different feel than the rest of the campground. Looks like a bit of a runoff area. Wouldn't recommend whatever's next to that, which would be site number 218. That's 218 right there. Looks like it has a lot of slope and it gets wet. Across from it is 219. Back here, before 219, is 220. Looks similar to 219. Neither one are great because you're right against the road. 217. So if you look, here's the road, and you see there's some elevation loss from the road down to the campsite, which means if it's raining, you're going to get water down there. So I really would not recommend any of these sites here. Alright, this is sites 171 to 188. There's the campground host to our right. Love the lodgepole pines. It would make a great setup for a tarp city. Here's 171. 171's okay, but all of these sites in here, let me just show you, they're all sloped the way that the camera is moving. So I don't think any of these would be great. There are better ones than these. 171, 172, 174, and then to the right is 173, also sloped on this side. $175. I can see that picnic table itself is sloped. Yeah, all this is sloped in here. 176 is a really cool site in that hemlock and white pine stand, but that's also sloped and it looks to be a grassy, swampy area. Beyond that, would not recommend. Here's a culvert here. 177, 178. It looks like you could get some flat spots in the back of 178. Stony area, I like this one. Looks like it's slightly sloped until you get to the back. This is a highly recommended one. Let's see what it is. Yes, 181 according to the post. I like 181 a lot. Here's site 180. That's not bad. It is a distance away from the bathhouse. Here's site 183, 185. I like all of these. 183, 185, 188. If you look in the back there, against the woods, these sites are huge up here. Yeah, as I was saying, all the sites 181 through 188 are highly recommended. They're huge. They go so far back and they're right against the woods. Here's site 184. $187. Then here's the extra car parking, and this is actually the end of the main road. So the main road is to our right. It comes off, and it comes up here rather, and splits off into two loops. These sites over here are electric. So if you want a more rustic section, but with electricity, sites 189 to 208 would be a good option. Rather, the sites on the outside of the loop are non-electric. The sites on the inside of the loop are electric. 189, that has a huge slope. It gets flat behind there, or back in there by those trees, but you're next to the extra car parking. That'd be okay, not my first choice. 189. This is sloped pretty well. 191, would not recommend that. Here's 190, an electric site. It's pretty good for an electric site. It's large, has a lot of tree cover from those lodgepole pines. 193 on the outer side of the loop. 193, 194, both sloped. Wouldn't recommend those. 192 is good for electric. 196 right there. You see how big these sites are. That's one site there. This is amazing. 195. Yeah, I've never seen sites as large as here at Cook Forest State Park Ridge Campground. 197, that's a huge site. Yeah, with both those tents on, that's 197. 198. 199 is pretty sloped. It looks like there's some flat spot right there. The electric sites on the inside, 200, surrounded by those wonderful lodgepole pines. 201, it's pretty sloped. It goes back up against the hill. Yeah, so that's 201 right there, a huge site, but sloped. 202, another large site, looks like with a trail going off into the woods behind it, also sloped. So what we'll do is at hemlockstateexplorer.com, we'll have a map marked up that shows you all the attributes of the sites, how much cover they have, 203, how sloped they are, and hope that will help you choose your favorite camping spot. If you use this video in conjunction with the map, you can pick out the spot right for you. 204, another large site in among the lodgepole pines. 205, not quite as large, but it goes back. 206. 207 is this whole corner here, a bit of a tight squeeze, I guess, compared to all the other sites that are large. Here's 208 with a large clearing among the lodgepole pines. And here we are, back at the Bathhouse. There's the campground host in that large RV. We just started our loop there. Here's site 213. So you'll see that there are handicap sites here as well, and they'll be marked on the map at hemlockstateexplorer.com. But you'll note, here's 212, that the handicap sites have an elevated grill and the parking area is paved. 211. And there we go. Last two sites on this section. That would be 209 we're looking at, and 210. And here we are back at the extra car parking lot at the end of the road. Alright, so we're back at the Bathhouse for the lodgepole pine section at the far end of the campground. There's the campground host again, and 214 next to the campground host. To our left is a loop up against the woods, site 215. We're gonna head up this loop, but we'll get it from the other side actually, so it will be in numerical order and easier for you to keep track of. You're looking at site 219, 220, and just beyond it, 221, where that gentleman's sitting. So let's check out sites 152 to 170. Again, this is in the pine section. There's site 152, large site. I love the shade of all these sections back in the pine stand. That again is a huge site. All of these sites back in the lodgepole pine section, or most of them rather, are huge. The largest we've seen at any state park. Here's site 153. It's on the back end of sites 220, 223, and 226. Kind of open for our tastes. Wouldn't be our first choice. Here's site 154. A lot of trees on it, but again, a huge site. .155 and its neighbor. Here's 155. A large site. 157. A large wooded site. And then in here, a little bit smaller, I guess on account of the trees, it's 156. Although it looks like 156 goes all the way back to that grass. Turning the curve, 158. Oh, this is a nice site. Look how far that goes back, and you'd be able to set up right underneath those trees, set up whatever lines or tarps you might need. 159, also a very nice site. So we'll compile a list of our favorites at hemlockstateexplorer.com. So if you want to just see the short list of our recommended sites and also the short list of the sites we recommend avoiding for various reasons, you can find that on the website. Again, this is just a walking tour, but use this in conjunction with the website to really get a full rounded view of the campground. So you're looking at 161 on the inner loop. Just gonna pan up, look at those trees. I love the reddish coloring of the trunks. I love how you're just in between all these trees. And because it's a pine stand, it generally keeps down all the brush. But anyway, 160 is a really nice site. 162 as well. Unfortunately, both of those are pretty sloped. You might be able to find a flat spot for a tent. Here's 163 in the middle of this loop. 164, a nice large site against the hill. Looks fairly flat back there, but a lot of the site is sloped. 165, also a nice site, but has some slope to it in the back. 166. 167. All of these sites are so big. 168. To our left, it's 169. And the last site that we'll look at on this loop is 170. And here we are back again at the campground host for this loop that is out farthest away from the entrance. We just really like this loop on account of the pines and the large sites. Alright, so let's go back up and check out the last couple loops at Cook Forest State Park Ridge Campground. We've returned to the loop where the 60s sites are located. In fact, here's site 60 to our left. And we came back here to check out this excellent hemlock stand. These sites look promising in here, except as you can notice, we're going down a significant hill. I suspect that most of these sites are not going to be workable on account of the slope. But let's see for ourselves. Here's site 39. Fairly flat, as long as you stay on that gravel area. But sloped in the back, sloped on the sides, sloped everywhere except on that gravel area. This is a nice spot. Of course, once things get wet, they wouldn't dry, but it is a really nice spot. I love being underneath the trees. That's my preferred camping. Here's site 37, very sloped. 37 is a no-go. Site 38, huge site underneath the trees, but also a no-go. That you could race little toy cars down that slope. That's a no-go. Site 63 is also a no-go. I think I see the tent, a clearing for the tent, and you will end up on the side of your tent on site 36. That's a no-go. And site 35 is also a no-go. That's really unfortunate. That's beautiful up in there, but the sites are just all too sloped to be any good. So right up there, about the center of the camera, is the entrance to the park, but off to the side is this secluded loop. There's only a few sites on this loop down here, and as you can see, this loop does not have a bathhouse. It has just a latrine, so you would have to go all the way up that hill if you wanted a shower and flush toilets. But here's a latrine just to serve this loop here. So the seclusion of the loop is appealing. Let's see what the sites look like. Alright, there are 3 sites here, 29 to the right, 31 to the left. Both are really too sloped to be workable, but then 30 back in there where that car is parked, that is going to be, I think, one of our top sites. We won't go back there because someone's on it, but look how big that is, and it looks like it's on the side of the flat part before a ravine back in the trees. So site 30 would certainly be worth checking out. Alright, we'll head back up the loop, and as you can hear, there's the road. We're close to the park entrance. Here's site 28. Not bad. Don't have a lot of usable room on account of the slope. Something really cool about site 28, look at this large white pine right next to it. Yeah, if you want to see old growth trees, right near here across the road actually is the Mohawk Loop, and Seneca Point takes you through an old growth forest with massive hemlock and white pine trees. And then actually down the hill into the gorge of the Clarion is the Forest Cathedral natural area. Also an excellent place, one of the few places where you can see some old growth trees as high as tall as 200 feet, some 300 to 500 years old. You can see that adventure at hemlockstateexplorer.com. So site 27 back in the woods but near the road. I wouldn't love that. And I think the slope of site 27 makes it a no-go as well. So we are up on what's called the Ridge Campground, and the Clarion Gorge is just down that way. So if you would expect to have some slope on these campsites. Site 26, not bad, but right at the entrance and the exit as well. There's one way in and out, so that'll be a high traffic site. There's a bunch of white pines, young white pines to our right. That'll be really cool once they get older. Actually, it's kind of cool now. Kids could play hide and seek in there. To our left is the back side of the amphitheater and the ball field that we saw when we came in. And then there's one site to our right where these folks are. And that would be site 25. To our right is site 22. That looks like a decent site. And then to our left is the back side of the playground and that volleyball net. That looks like a great open space for games. We're turning the corner, or turning the curve rather, to the last few sites. Sites 21. Looks like a nice site as well. Site 19, not so much, because it looks like there's a walkway right next to it to the bathroom, and it's fairly close to site 18. Not too much flat in site 19 either. Just site 18. And here's site number 17, right next to the woodshed where wood is for sale. We've returned to near the center of the campground, and the last two sites we'll see are site 85 and site 84. 84 is sloped as well, although it's back in the woods. And then to our right is the full hookup section that we walked by earlier. So that is Cook Forest State Park. The purpose of this was to give you the layout of the park and to show you some of the campsites so you can pick your perfect site. We really love Cook Forest State Park on account of the size of the sites. Like I said before, we have not seen larger sites at any state park, and we also love the lodgepole pine stand section, which we're walking up to right now, and especially the outer loops that abut the forest. So thank you for joining us. Use this in conjunction with the post at hemlockstateexplorer.com, where we have the full review and we'll have maps marked up and some photos so you can pick the perfect camping spot. Please check out all of our other content and campground reviews at hemlockstateexplorer.com. Please do us a favor, like, subscribe, and share. And we can't wait to see you at our next campground review at hemlockstateexplorer.com.